Welcome to a story that's not just about brilliance, but about heart, struggle, and unwavering curiosity. Today, I want to take you on a journey, not just into the life of Albert Einstein, but into the soul of what it means to pursue something greater than yourself. This is not a lecture. It's not a history lesson. It's a reflection on someone who changed the world, not by seeking fame, but by chasing truth. So, get comfortable. Listen closely. Let's follow the quiet footsteps of a man whose thoughts bent time and space. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in a small German town called Ulm. He didn't arrive with fireworks. In fact, he seemed almost invisible. An unusually large head, a late talker, a silent child. His parents were ordinary people. His father worked with electrical equipment. His mother loved music. But Albert? He mostly sat alone, silent, watching, thinking. They called him the quiet one. What they didn't realize was that this quiet wasn't emptiness. It was depth. Behind those still eyes was a mind assembling the pieces of a world it hadn't yet been taught to name. At the age of 5, a simple compass changed everything. The needle that always pointed north, it shouldn't have made sense. But it did something more than move. It stirred something deep in Albert. He became fascinated by invisible forces, by the idea that what we see isn't all there is. That moment shaped a lifelong quest, not just for answers, but for understanding. And that's our first quiet lesson. Inspiration doesn't come with fanfare. It arrives in small, almost forgettable moments we only recognize when we're ready to listen. Albert's time in school was difficult. He didn't thrive in environments where memorization was more valued than imagination. His teachers saw a boy who questioned too much, who didn't follow the rules, and they called him a failure. But what they missed is something many still forget. Learning isn't about obedience. It's about engagement. Albert wasn't failing to learn. He was refusing to accept mediocrity. He fell in love with math not because he was told to, but because numbers made sense when the world didn't. He called it the language of the universe. And through music, he found not just rhythm, but clarity. These were not hobbies. They were lifelines. And so we arrive at our second quiet lesson. When you don't fit in, it doesn't mean you're broken. It might just mean your path hasn't been paved yet. The world often resists what it doesn't understand. But your job is not to be understood. Your job is to understand yourself. When his father's business failed and the family moved to Italy, Albert stayed behind in Germany alone. But he was unhappy, restless. So he left school. On his own, with no diploma, he read. He studied. He taught himself. And at 16, he wrote his first scientific paper. It wasn't perfect, but it was brave. He failed his first entrance exam to the Polytechnic in Zurich, not because he wasn't smart, but because the system didn't know how to measure him. Still, he didn't give up. He tried again. He passed. That's the third quiet lesson. Failure is not the end. It's friction. It hurts. But it shapes. It refines. And most importantly, it asks, how badly do you want this? In Zurich, Einstein met Mileva Merrick, a brilliant mind in a time when women were rarely allowed to have one. Their partnership, intellectual and emotional, was rare. Together, they imagined a world that hadn't yet been drawn. But life was hard. He struggled to find work. Even with a degree, no one wanted to hire him. His professors didn't support him. He ended up as a clerk at the patent office. Not exactly a dream job, but he didn't waste the quiet. He used it. He scribbled notes, imagined theories. That small, windowless office became the place where he started to unlock the universe. Here's the fourth quiet lesson. Purpose doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. Sometimes what feels like a dead end is really an unexpected beginning. The world might call it a detour. You'll look back and call it destiny. In 1905, Einstein, still unknown, still uncelebrated, published 4 papers that would change science forever. One of them introduced the world to the famous equation E=mc². Just 26 years old. Just a clerk. But those ideas? They bent reality. People took notice. Offers came in. Positions opened. The boy who was once called a failure became a professor, then a global icon. But he didn't change. He remained curious, humble. He questioned everything. When war came, he stood for peace. When he was praised, he deflected. He once said, "I am simply curious. I stay with questions longer than others." That's not modesty. That's perspective. And this, perhaps, is the most powerful quiet lesson of all. Greatness isn't loud. It doesn't chase attention. It holds space for wonder. It listens longer. It sits with complexity and lets uncertainty speak. When the Nazis came to power, Albert, being Jewish, had to flee Germany. He left behind more than a home. He left behind the very place where his ideas were born. But even in exile, he remained hopeful. He spoke for peace. He spoke for justice. He regretted that his work helped unlock the atomic bomb. But he never stopped believing in humanity. Until his last breath in 1955, Albert Einstein asked questions. He pursued unity in science, in people, in purpose. He died quietly as he lived, but his ideas echo loudly still. So what do we take from this? Not just admiration, not just inspiration. We take his story as a mirror, a call to persistence, a reminder that you don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be understood to be right, and you don't need permission to begin. The world doesn't always know what to do with brilliance, but brilliance doesn't wait. And maybe that's the final lesson. It's okay to be the quiet one, as long as you keep thinking, keep feeling, and never stop asking the questions that matter. This was the story of Albert Einstein, not just the genius, but the human, the thinker, the questionnaire, the quiet storm. And maybe, just maybe, it's a story about you too.